Amara sat quietly beside her husband, Ethan, at a crowded charity dinner. The room was full of rich people, business leaders, and shining laughter. Everyone looked perfect. Expensive dresses, flashing smiles, soft music in the background. Ethan was in his element. He loved attention. As he spoke to the table, Amara listened, trying to keep her face calm. He was telling one of his success stories, describing how he saved a client's company with a brilliant marketing idea. But that idea wasn't his. It was hers. She had come up with it years ago when she still worked before he made her quit. The guests laughed, impressed by his charm. One woman looked at Amara and said kindly, "You must be so proud. You're such a supportive wife." Ethan smiled and placed his hand on Amara's shoulder, squeezing it lightly. "Of course," he said with a grin. "She's perfect, but she knows she'd be nothing without me." Everyone laughed. The sound felt like glass breaking inside Amara's chest. She forced a small smile and whispered, "Of course, dear." Her eyes burned, but she blinked quickly, hiding her tears. The rest of the night passed in a blur. She smiled when she needed to, nodded at strangers, and clapped politely during the speeches. But her heart was heavy. Each laugh, each compliment to Ethan, felt like a knife twisting deeper. When they finally returned home, Amara stood by the window, still in her evening gown. Ethan loosened his tie, looking pleased with himself. "Why would you say that tonight?" she asked quietly. He looked confused. "Say what?" "That I'd be nothing without you." He gave a short laugh. "Because it's true, Amara. Without me, you'd still be running after small dreams. Everything you have, this house, this life, it's because of me." Her breath caught in her throat. "You really believe that?" Ethan shrugged, not even looking at her. "Don't take it so seriously. You know I love you." Then he walked away, leaving her alone in the silence of their big, beautiful house. Amara looked at her reflection in the mirror. The same woman who once dreamed of running her own company, now standing there feeling small and invisible. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Then maybe I need to find out who I am without you." The words surprised even her. But deep down, something inside her shifted. A quiet promise, a spark of strength that she hadn't felt in years. Ethan was a rising business consultant, and Amara was a smart and creative marketing strategist. They met during a business event, where Ethan was giving a presentation, and Amara's ideas caught his attention. He admired her intelligence and confidence, while she was drawn to his charm and ambition. Their connection was fast and strong. Within a year, they got married. In the beginning, everything felt perfect. They talked about building a future together, a powerful couple working side by side. Ethan often told her, "We'll take over the business world, you and me." Amara believed him. She trusted his vision completely. But soon after the wedding, things started to change. Ethan began to suggest that Amara should quit her job. "You don't need to work so hard anymore," he said gently. "I make enough for both of us. Focus on the home, and maybe we can start a family soon." At first, Amara hesitated. Her career meant everything to her. But Ethan's words sounded loving, caring, and she wanted to make him happy. So she agreed to take a break for a little while. That short break became permanent. Months passed, and every time she mentioned going back to work, Ethan had a reason for her not to. "Now isn't the right time," he'd say. "I need you here with me. I can't do everything alone." Slowly, Amara's world began to shrink. Her friends stopped calling as much. Ethan didn't like her going out with them. "They're a bad influence," he'd say. "They'll fill your head with silly ideas." He started managing all their money, saying it was better for security. Every house document, every bank account, all in his name. Amara didn't realize what that meant until she wanted to buy something, and had to ask him first. At home, she became the perfect wife, organizing dinners, supporting him, helping him polish presentations, even writing marketing speeches for his clients. But when he stood before crowds, taking credit for her words, he never mentioned her name. She smiled from the sidelines, clapping, pretending to be proud. Her mother-in-law, Grace, loved Ethan deeply and always took his side. Whenever Amara seemed tired or quiet, Grace would say, "A man's ego is fragile, my dear. Let him shine. That's your duty as a wife." Those words sank deep into Amara's heart. She wanted to believe them, but each day she felt smaller, as if her own light was fading. The only person who truly saw her pain was her best friend, Lydia. Lydia would visit often, bringing laughter and memories from the past. One afternoon, as they drank tea together, Lydia said softly, "You used to talk about starting your own firm, remember? What happened to that fire, Amara?" Amara lowered her eyes. "He says now isn't the right time," she whispered. Lydia sighed. "Maybe he means it's not the right time for you to rise." Those words stayed with Amara long after Lydia left. She looked around her beautiful home, the shining floors, the perfect furniture, the quietness, and realized it didn't feel like hers. It felt like a cage. Days turned into weeks. Amara's smile became something she wore like a mask. Ethan would walk in, talking about his latest deal, his latest success, never asking about her dreams. And she would nod, cooking dinner, saying, "That's wonderful," even when her heart felt empty. Then one morning, as she checked her old email account, the one she hadn't used in years, she saw a message that made her stop breathing for a second. It was from Mr. Jude Carson, her former boss at the marketing agency. "Amara," the email began, "I've started a new company, and I need someone brilliant to help with a confidential marketing project. I immediately thought of you." Amara stared at the screen, her hands trembling. She hadn't heard from Mr. Carson in so long. Reading his words reminded her of who she used to be, confident, creative, alive. She closed her laptop quickly when Ethan walked in, but her heart kept racing. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the offer. Could she really say yes? Could she work again, without Ethan knowing? After a long moment, she whispered to herself, "Just one meeting. No harm in that." The next morning, while Ethan was at work, Amara replied to the email. Her fingers shook as she typed, "I'd love to meet and hear more about the project." As she pressed send, she didn't realize it, but that single message would change everything. Amara met Mr. Carson at a small cafe in the city. It had been years since she had last seen him. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, and her heart beat fast as she waited for him to arrive. When he walked in, he smiled warmly, the same kind and respectful smile she remembered. "Amara Bennett," he said with a grin, shaking her hand. "You look even more confident than before." Amara laughed nervously. "I don't know about confident, but it's good to see you again, sir." They sat by the window, sunlight streaming through. For a moment, Amara felt like her old self, the woman who once loved marketing, who dreamed of creating ideas that could move people. Mr. Carson sipped his coffee and said, "You know, I never understood why you quit. Your work was some of the best I'd ever seen. Remember the Fresh Vision campaign? It won awards. You're a natural strategist, Amara. The industry misses you." Amara's eyes softened. Hearing those words brought back memories she had buried deep. "Thank you," she said quietly. I guess life just went in a different direction." He nodded kindly. "I understand. But listen, I'm starting something new, a fresh company with strong values. And I need someone who can help with a confidential marketing project. It's short-term and completely flexible. You can even work from home." Amara froze. The offer sounded exciting but terrifying at the same time. "Work from home," she repeated softly. "Yes," Mr. Carson said. "You'd be in control. Your time, your creativity, your work. No one needs to know if you don't want them to." Amara hesitated. Ethan would never approve. He would call it a distraction or accuse her of hiding things. She looked down at her hands, unsure what to say. Mr. Carson leaned forward and said gently, "Amara, you don't owe anyone permission to live your life." The words hit her deeply. She looked at him, speechless. Those words kept echoing in her mind even after she left the cafe. You don't owe anyone permission. That night, she lay beside Ethan as he snored softly, her mind racing. Her heart said yes, but her fear said no. She turned to look at the ceiling, thinking of the woman she used to be. Then, quietly, she opened her laptop and started typing. The next morning, she accepted the offer. Amara began working in secret. At night, when Ethan went to bed, she stayed up in her study, her screen glowing in the dark. She worked quietly, crafting marketing ideas, writing strategies, and building presentations. The excitement she felt reminded her of who she once was. Days turned into weeks. The project began to grow, faster than anyone expected. Under her pen name, Eshe Bennett, her campaign went viral. People online praised her creativity, calling her work fresh and powerful. Mr. Carson was thrilled. You've done it again, Amara. This campaign is everywhere. Even the big firms are talking about Bennett. Amara smiled through happy tears. It was the first time in years she felt alive. Not as someone's wife, but as herself. But she didn't know that her success was already shaking Ethan's world. At his company's board meeting, Ethan sat across from a group of serious-looking executives. The discussion was tense. One of them said, "We're losing our biggest client. They've just moved their account to a new consulting firm." Ethan frowned. "What? Which firm?" The man replied, "A small new company. The strategist goes by the name Bennett." Ethan's face turned red with anger. "Who the hell is this Bennett stealing my client?" he shouted. His assistant, looking nervous, said, "We don't have details, sir. But whoever she is, she's brilliant." The room fell silent. Ethan's pride burned. Someone was beating him, and he didn't even know who it was. Meanwhile, at home, Amara smiled quietly at her glowing laptop screen. Unaware that the man fuming in that boardroom was her own husband, Ethan started noticing changes in Amara. She was smiling more these days, walking with confidence, and spending more time in her study. Her eyes, once dull and tired, now had a quiet fire in them. She hummed softly while cooking, dressed better, and even seemed happier when he wasn't around. At first, Ethan thought it was just a phase, but soon suspicion crept in. She was staying up late, working on her laptop, and locking her phone more often. One evening, as she shut her computer quickly when he entered, Ethan frowned. "You've been secretive lately," he said, his tone sharp. "Is there someone else?" Amara looked up calmly. "Someone else? No, Ethan. Just myself." He stared at her, not understanding. "What does that even mean?" She gave a faint smile. "It means I'm starting to remember who I am." That answer only made him angrier. He began to watch her closely. When she went to the grocery store, he checked how long she took. When she used her laptop, he'd glance over her shoulder. Soon, his curiosity turned into obsession. One afternoon, while Amara was out, Ethan installed tracking software on her laptop. He wanted to see her messages, her work, her every move. He told himself it was for the good of their marriage, but deep down it was pride and fear driving him. Days later, when Amara left her computer open by mistake, Ethan walked past and froze. On the screen were presentation slides, bold titles, powerful marketing ideas, and in the corner of each slide was the name, Bennett. His heart pounded. That name again. The one who had stolen his biggest client. He clicked through the files, his anger boiling with each slide. And then it hit him. Amara was Bennett. When she walked in, Ethan was standing by her desk, his face dark with rage. "You're the one behind Bennett?" he shouted. "You embarrassed me in front of the entire board." Amara took a deep breath, her voice calm but trembling. "I didn't steal anything, Ethan. I earned it, like I always did for you. The only difference is this time, I did it for myself." "You're ungrateful," he snapped, his voice echoing through the house. "You'd still be nothing without my name." Amara looked at him sadly. "Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I let your name erase mine." Ethan's hands shook with fury. He slammed the laptop shut and stormed out of the room, leaving Amara standing alone, her heart breaking but her spirit unshaken. The next morning, Grace, his mother, came to visit. She sat on the couch beside Amara, her voice calm but cold. "I heard what happened," she said. "Men only act this way when they're afraid of losing control. You should apologize, dear. Keep your marriage safe before it's too late." Amara looked at her gently. Maybe control is exactly what he should lose. Grace frowned. "You're becoming proud, Amara. That's dangerous for a woman." But Amara only smiled softly. Maybe pride isn't a bad thing when you've been made to feel small for too long. After Grace left, Amara made a decision. She was done hiding. She continued working in secret, putting together a portfolio of her projects, the proof of her talent. She spent nights filling out forms and business documents, and finally registered her own company, Mara Vision Consulting, under her full name, Amara Bennett. She felt free for the first time in years, but freedom came with a cost. Weeks later, Ethan found the business papers in her drawer. His anger exploded again. "You registered a company behind my back? How dare you? You're a traitor to this family." Amara stood firm. "I'm not a traitor, Ethan. I'm just done being invisible. He pointed at her with shaking hands. You'll regret this. No one will hire you once I tell them who you are. A disloyal wife who destroys her husband's career. Amara looked him straight in the eye. Then let's see who survives without the other. The words hit him harder than a slap. He stormed out again, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. From that night on, their house turned cold. They barely spoke. Ethan spent long hours at the office, trying to fix his company's problems, while Amara worked quietly on her projects, her determination growing stronger each day. But soon, the news began to spread. Ethan's company was under review. There were whispers of financial issues, missing funds, and strange transactions. The board announced an internal audit to investigate the firm. Ethan came home looking pale and restless. He blamed everyone, his staff, his partners, the economy. But deep down, he knew things were falling apart. Meanwhile, Amara worked late into the night, not out of revenge but out of purpose. She wasn't fighting Ethan anymore. She was fighting for herself. Every keystroke, every new client, every success under Amara's vision made her stronger. And as Ethan's world began to crumble, Amara's was just beginning to rise. Ethan stood at the front of a crowded conference room, facing flashing cameras and rows of reporters. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his tie. The air was heavy with tension. The reporters were firing questions one after another. Mr. Bennett, is it true that your firm is under investigation for financial fraud? Ethan forced a smile. These are baseless rumors, he said quickly. There's been some confusion in accounting, that's all. Another reporter raised her voice. But the audit shows several shady transactions under your name. Care to explain? Ethan's jaw tightened. It's a misunderstanding, he said sharply. The accountant made mistakes, he'll be dealt with. He was sweating now. Cameras clicked non-stop, capturing every twitch, every drop of fear that crossed his face. Suddenly, the room went silent as the doors opened. Everyone turned to see who had arrived. Walking in with quiet confidence was Mr. Carson. And beside him was Amara. The reporters gasped. The cameras started flashing again, faster this time. Ethan froze, his heart thudding. Amara, he whispered, his face pale. Amara stood tall beside Mr. Carson, wearing a simple but elegant black suit. She looked calm, not angry, not vengeful, just peaceful and sure of herself. A reporter stood up and asked loudly, Mr. Bennett, do you know Ms. Amara Bennett is the consultant behind the marketing campaign that overtook your firm's biggest client? Ethan's eyes widened. He stammered. That's my wife. This is personal sabotage. She's trying to destroy me. Mr. Carson stepped forward. No, Mr. Bennett, he said clearly, his voice steady. This is not sabotage. It's business. And Amara is simply the best in the field. The room erupted in whispers and camera flashes. Ethan's face turned red with shame. He looked at Amara, trying to find anger or regret in her eyes, but there was only calm strength. Then one of the auditors stepped up to the microphone. We have new evidence, she announced. Company records show that Mr. Bennett falsified financial reports and moved client funds into personal accounts. The data was traced back to his home laptop. Ethan's throat went dry. He looked toward Amara, realization dawning. She knew. He remembered all those nights she had worked late at home, using his laptop when he was asleep. His breath quickened as he understood. She had seen everything. He took a step toward her, lowering his voice. You wouldn't ruin me, he said in a trembling whisper. Amara's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but her voice was calm. I'm not ruining you, Ethan. You did that yourself. The words hit him like a punch. The reporters kept shouting questions. The truth spread like wildfire. Ethan Bennett had been faking reports and cheating clients, while his wife, working under her pen name A. Bennett, had unknowingly protected one of those clients from his lies. Mr. Carson confirmed it all. Ms. Amara Bennett's campaign helped our company recover from the losses caused by Mr. Bennett's firm, he said. She saved a major client, and did it with integrity. The reporters turned their cameras back to Ethan. His reputation, everything he had built, was collapsing before his eyes. His phone buzzed with messages, but he didn't dare look. The board members were already walking away from him, whispering to one another, avoiding eye contact. He tried to speak, but no one listened. His voice broke. Amara, please. She met his eyes for the last time. There was sadness there, but no pity. You told me I'd be nothing without you, she said softly. But now you see, I was never the one who needed saving. And with that, she turned and walked out, Mr. Carson following beside her. The cameras followed her exit, the strong, graceful woman walking away from the man who had once silenced her. Ethan sank into his chair, his world crashing down around him. Reporters crowded forward, shouting his name, demanding answers, but he had none. Outside the building, Amara took a deep breath of fresh air. The noise of the press conference faded behind her. For the first time in years she felt light. Her hands were still shaking, but not from fear, from freedom. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were not from pain. Ethan's empire had fallen in one day, and Amara had finally found her voice. She walked toward the waiting car, the flash of cameras behind her like fading thunder. Her tears rolled silently down her face, not of sorrow, but of release. Amara moved into her new apartment. It was small, but peaceful. The walls were white, the windows wide, and the air smelled of freedom. There was no shouting, no tension, no fear. Just silence and peace. Every morning, she made herself coffee and looked out at the sunrise. She smiled quietly, realizing how far she had come. There was no luxury, but everything here was hers, earned by her own hands. Her new company, Maravision Consulting, began to grow faster than she expected. At first, it was just her and a small desk in the corner of the room. But soon, clients started calling. People who had seen her work and trusted her honesty. She worked with passion, guiding others, creating beautiful marketing ideas that touched hearts. Slowly, she hired a few women who had been through pain like hers. Some had left toxic jobs. Others had escaped controlling marriages. Amara gave them what she once needed most, a chance to start again. One afternoon, as they all sat working together, the office was full of laughter and life. There were plants by the windows and pictures of smiling faces on the wall. For the first time, Amara felt she had built something real, something that healed instead of hurt. A few weeks later, Lydia came to visit. She stood in the doorway, looking around the small but warm office, her eyes shining with pride. Lydia, you did it. You walked through fire and didn't burn. Amara, smiling softly, no. I burned, but I learned how to rise from my ashes. They hugged, both of them crying quietly, tears of pride, not pain. That evening, after everyone had gone home, Amara sat by her window sipping tea. Her phone buzzed. The name on the screen made her heart tighten, Ethan. She stared at the phone for a long moment. The old pain flickered for a second, but then she took a deep breath and let it go. She let it ring once, twice, and then she answered. Ethan, his voice tired and broken. Amara, I need you. I can't do this alone. Amara, calmly, you were right, Ethan. Ethan. About what? Amara. I'm nothing without myself. Goodbye. She hung up. For a long moment, she sat there, staring out at the city lights. The night air was cool and calm. She closed her eyes and smiled. The past was behind her. The pain had shaped her, but it no longer controlled her. She was free. Amara stood and looked around her small apartment, the books on the shelf, her laptop on the desk, her vision board with words written in bold. Rise. Heal. Lead. She whispered to herself. This is just the beginning. Outside, the city kept moving, bright, alive, full of possibility. And for the first time in a long, long while, Amara felt truly alive too. Amara walks the red carpet, calm and confident. Flashing lights surround her as cameras click and reporters call her name. She smiles, not nervously this time, but with pride. Everyone recognizes her now as the CEO who changed how business should be. Honest, fair, and full of heart. Inside the grand hall, Mr. Carson takes the stage and speaks warmly. Mr. Carson. Tonight we honor a woman who turned pain into purpose, Amara Bennett. Applause fills the room as Amara walks up to the microphone. She looks beautiful, strong and peaceful. She takes a deep breath and begins to speak. Amara. They say love should complete you. But real love never asks you to shrink. To every woman who's ever been told she's nothing, you already are everything you need to be. The audience stands, clapping loudly. Some people wipe away tears. Cameras flash, capturing her proud smile. A smile of freedom. After the event, Amara steps outside into the cool night air. The city lights sparkle around her. She looks up at the stars and whispers softly, almost to herself, Amara. He said I'd be nothing without him. But without him, I finally became me. She smiles, not out of revenge but peace. Her story has come full circle. She walks away from the red carpet, her heels clicking confidently against the ground, ready for the next chapter of her life. Clapperboard. Hi besties. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Sparkling heart. If Amara's journey inspired you, please like, comment, and subscribe for more heart-touching stories. See you in the next one. Bye. Crescent Moon Dizzy.